Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Gates. I'm Alessio, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Beyond the Gates, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. You ever notice how Vegas has a way of bringing out people's secrets? Like, no matter how hard you try to keep things under control, the lights, the noise, the temptation, it all catches up to you. That's exactly what happened on Beyond the Gates this week. Doug McBride gave his wife an ultimatum. Him or Joey. Dani and Andre? They made a wild new arrangement in Vegas that no one saw coming. And across town, hearts are breaking. Anita learns the truth about Ted and Leslie, and Kat questions everything with Tomas. This isn't just soap drama. It's raw, messy, human, and I promise you, once you hear what went down, you'll see yourself in parts of this story too. So stick with me, because this one is going to hit deeper than you expect. They say Las Vegas changes people. That there's something about the lights, the chaos, and the endless possibilities that makes you do things you swore you'd never do. I didn't believe that at first. I thought I was stronger than the neon pull of temptation, stronger than the buzz of adrenaline that comes with being in a city where tomorrow doesn't exist until it's already here. But then I watched Dani Dupree and Andre Richardson, two people who had no business falling back into old patterns, make an arrangement in Vegas that changed everything. And while I wasn't inside that hotel room when it happened, I might as well have been. Because I know what it feels like to make choices out of loneliness. I know what it feels like to want someone in the moment, even when your heart belongs somewhere else. That's the thing about Dani and Andre. They're not villains. They're not reckless kids who don't know better. They're adults, two people who have lived enough life to understand the difference between love and lust, between fleeting passion and real commitment. But Vegas has a way of blurring those lines until you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. When spoilers first dropped about Andre possibly proposing to Dani in Vegas, the fandom exploded. Some people were thrilled. Some thought it was a joke. But me? I wasn't surprised. Because Andre has always been impulsive, always chasing something he can't quite name. And Dani, well, Dani has always been the kind of woman who likes control, who likes structure, but deep down, she craves the wild. That's why Vegas was dangerous for them. Because it brought out sides of themselves they usually keep locked away. And maybe that's why they made the deal they did. From what I've pieced together, and from what I know of both of them, it wasn't about true love. It wasn't about forever. It was about filling the emptiness. Dani's been in love with someone else for months, though she'd never say it out loud. Andre's heart? It's tangled up in old wounds and unspoken feelings that he doesn't know how to handle. But for one night in Vegas, none of that mattered. For one night, they let themselves pretend. I'll be honest, when I heard about their new arrangement, I felt a pang in my chest. Not because I judged them, but because I remembered my own Vegas moment. It was years ago. I'd gone with friends, fresh off a heartbreak that I swore I was handling well. The city was electric, alive in a way that made my pain feel smaller. I remember the moment so clearly. Standing at a blackjack table, laughing too loud, drinking too much, when I locked eyes with a stranger across the casino floor. We talked. We danced. We kissed under the artificial glow of the strip. And by the end of the night, we had made our own arrangement. Nothing serious, nothing lasting, just two broken people holding each other long enough to forget our separate sorrows. The next morning, I told myself it didn't matter, that it was just fun. But the truth is, it mattered more than I wanted to admit. Because for those hours, I felt seen. And when you've been invisible to the person you really love, even a stranger's attention feels like salvation. That's what I see in Dani and Andre. But then there's Doug McBride. Doug isn't flashy like Andre. He's not smooth, not charming in the same way. But Doug carries his own baggage. Years of gambling, of losing himself in addictions that nearly cost him everything. And now, after clawing his way back to some version of stability, he finds himself facing the ugliest truth of all, that his wife, Vanessa, has been slipping away from him piece by piece. When I heard that Doug gave Vanessa an ultimatum, him or Joey Armstrong, I didn't know whether to admire him for finally drawing a line or pity him for thinking it would make a difference. Because ultimatums? They don't fix broken marriages. They just expose how broken things really are. And Vanessa's choice to run off with Joey, the casino owner, later that week proved exactly that. Doug wasn't her anchor anymore.
He was her chain.
I can't judge her for leaving. I've been Vanessa too. I've been the wife who looked at her husband and saw not a partner, but a reminder of all the things that had gone wrong. Sometimes, walking away isn't about the new man, it's about finally choosing yourself. But that doesn't make the wreckage any less painful for the one left behind. Here's the thing about Beyond the Gates. It's a soap opera, yes, but it reflects something raw and real about the choices people make when they're hurting. Doug's ultimatum wasn't really about saving his marriage. It was about saving face. About proving to himself that he still had some control in a life that had spun out of his grip too many times before. And when Vanessa chose Joey, it wasn't just rejection. It was confirmation of his worst fear, that he had gambled and lost again, only this time the bet was his marriage. Meanwhile, across town, Kat Richardson sat with her cousin Chelsea, trying to untangle her feelings for Tomas Navarro. Kat is complicated, guarded, sharp-edged, but soft underneath. She cares for Tomas, but something about the intimacy between them has left her unsettled. Fans online have debated endlessly. Was Tomas really that bad in bed, or was Kat sabotaging something that scared her because it was real? I think it's the latter. Because sometimes when someone gets too close, when they see the parts of us we keep hidden, it feels less like intimacy and more like exposure. And if you've built your identity on being strong, being untouchable, that kind of vulnerability can feel unbearable. I see that in Kat. I've lived that too. And then there's Anita Dupree, Vanessa's mother, caught in the crossfire of Ted Richardson's latest fumble with Leslie Thomas. Just days earlier, Anita and Leslie had shared a rare moment of tenderness, talking about Anita's biological mother, Barbara Mitchell. For a brief second, it seemed like there might be healing, like these two women might find common ground in their shared history. But then came the news, Ted and Leslie's hotel room tryst. For Anita, that wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. It was a reminder that her marriage to Ted wasn't just broken, it was unsalvageable. And what hurts the most isn't the betrayal itself, but the death of hope. Because as long as you think there's a chance to fix things, you can survive almost anything. But once hope dies, that's when the grief sets in. And grief was everywhere that week in Fairmont Crest. Grief in Doug's hollow eyes as he realized Vanessa was gone. Grief in Anita's silence as she processed Ted's latest betrayal. Grief in Dani and Andre's forced laughter as they tried to convince themselves their arrangement meant nothing. But grief isn't the end. Sometimes, it's just the beginning. The thing about ultimatums is that they rarely end well. I've been on both sides of them, once the person giving the ultimatum and once the person forced to choose. And in both cases, the outcome was the same. Someone walked away feeling like they'd lost everything. Doug thought he was being strong when he told Vanessa she had to choose between him and Joey. I can almost picture him in their living room that night, jaw tight, fists clenched, his voice low but shaking as he tried to sound firm. Vanessa, it's me or him. I can't keep living like this. And for a second, I imagined she just stared at him, maybe even laughed bitterly because she already knew her answer. She'd been slipping away from Doug for months, maybe years. Joey didn't cause the cracks in their marriage. He just walked into the space where the cracks had already been spreading. That's the part Doug didn't want to face. That's the part none of us want to face when we're the ones left behind. We want to believe there was something we could have done, some moment we could have salvaged, some fight we could have fought harder. But sometimes the truth is simpler and crueler. It was over long before the ultimatum. I learned that lesson the hard way. Years ago with my ex, I thought giving him an ultimatum would make him see me again. I thought if I told him, either you commit to me or we're done, he'd finally realize how much he stood to lose. But you know what happened? He shrugged. He chose done. And I sat there, stunned, realizing I'd just handed him the easiest out he could have asked for. That's why Doug's story hits me so hard. Because I see the desperation in him, The way he clings to Vanessa even as she's walking out the door. And I see the humiliation that follows when she doesn't choose him. Not because Joey is better, but because she's done being tied to a man whose addictions, mistakes, and guilt weigh heavier than her love for him ever could. But Vegas doesn't care about ultimatums. While Doug was making his stand, Dani and Andre were making their own kind of deal. From what the spoilers hinted, they didn't define it clearly. Maybe they agreed to be exclusive for the moment. Maybe they agree it was just fun. Maybe they agreed not to talk about it at all, to just keep riding the wave until it inevitably crashed. But the thing is, arrangements like that, they're fragile. They might work for a night, maybe even a few weeks. But eventually, the truth creeps back in. Their real feelings for other people, their real lives waiting outside the Vegas bubble. And when that truth arrives, it doesn't knock politely. It slams the door open and demands to be heard. I think about Dani sometimes. About the way she must have looked at Andre in that hotel room, trying to laugh off the seriousness of what they were doing. She probably told herself it was harmless, that she deserved a little fun, that no one had to get hurt. But that's the lie we tell ourselves when we're lonely. I told myself the same thing that night in Vegas years ago, when I made my own arrangement with a stranger. I told myself it was harmless, that I wasn't cheating anyone, that I wasn't betraying my own heart, that it was just fun. But when the night ended, when the makeup smeared and the lights went out, I felt emptier than before. Because pretending only works for so long. Eventually, you have to face the truth you were trying to avoid. And that's where Dani and Andre are headed. Across town, Kat Richardson was sitting with Chelsea, bearing her soul in a way that I don't think she does often. Kat is the type who builds walls around herself so high that most people don't even try to climb them. But Chelsea isn't most people. She's family, and she has a way of seeing through Kat's armor. When Kat admitted that things with Tomas weren't what she expected, that the bedroom, instead of bringing them closer, had somehow pushed them apart, I felt for her. Because intimacy isn't always simple. Sometimes it exposes every insecurity you've worked so hard to hide. Was it Tomas's fault? Was it hers? Maybe it was both. But the real question wasn't whether the sex was good or bad. It was whether Kat could let herself be vulnerable enough to give Tomas a real chance. I've been Kat, too. I've been the one who sabotaged something good because it scared me more than being alone. And then there's Anita Dupree. God, Anita breaks my heart. For a brief moment, it looked like she and Leslie Thomas might find common ground. They had shared something personal, something almost tender, about Anita's biological mother, Barbara Mitchell. And for once, Leslie wasn't the villain. She was just another woman, searching for connection in a world that rarely gave it to her. But then came Ted. Always Ted. His drunken night with Leslie wasn't just a betrayal of Anita's trust, it was the final nail in the coffin of their marriage. And what made it worse was the timing. To go from tenderness to betrayal so quickly? That's not just cruel, it's devastating. Because Anita wasn't just losing her husband. She was losing the illusion that maybe, just maybe, they could fix what was broken. Doug, Anita, Dani, Andre, Kat, they're all living different stories, but there's a thread that connects them. Loss. Loss of control. Loss of love. Loss of the future they thought they had. And watching them stumble through it all, I can't help but see myself in their pain. Because I've lived those losses, too. And maybe that's why Beyond the Gates pulls me in the way it does. It's not just drama for the sake of drama. It's a mirror, one that forces us to confront the choices we've made, the mistakes we've buried, and the wounds we still carry. But Doug's story isn't done yet. Because if the spoilers are right, his week is about to go from bad to worse. Vanessa's trip with Joey isn't just a fling. It's a declaration. And for Doug, a man already teetering on the edge, that kind of rejection could push him into a spiral that he might not come back from. And that's the danger of ultimatums. When you make someone choose, you have to be ready for their answer. And sometimes, that answer shatters you.